How does a massive 15-story oil rig simply vanish into a lake that is barely 10 feet deep? It sounds like an impossible riddle or a scene from a high-budget disaster film, but for the residents of New Iberia, Louisiana in November 1980, this nightmare was a terrifying reality. Lake Peigneur was a serene, shallow freshwater body, often filled with fishermen enjoying the calm waters. Yet, in just a few hours, it transformed into a violent, churning abyss that swallowed everything in its path. 11 massive barges, a sprawling botanical garden, a home, and a towering oil platform were sucked into a ravenous, spinning vortex that appeared out of nowhere. The sheer scale of the destruction was catastrophic, yet the catalyst was almost invisible to the naked eye. It all began with a single drill bit, only 14 inches wide, searching for oil deposits deep beneath the muddy lake bed. But beneath this quiet surface lay a massive, hidden secret. The Diamond Crystal Salt Mine, a subterranean labyrinth of tunnels stretching 1,300 feet into the Earth's crust. 55 miners were working in those dark, crystalline corridors when they heard an ominous sound like distant, rolling thunder vibrating through the walls. They didn't know it yet, but the tiny drill bit above had accidentally punctured the ceiling of their mine, creating a direct, fatal conduit between the lake and the massive salt dome. What followed was a race against time that defied belief. As the fresh water rushed into the puncture, it didn't just fill the void. It began rapidly dissolving the very pillars holding the Earth together, triggering a massive, irreversible structural collapse that threatened to liquefy the entire landscape. The lake was literally being drained into the ground, creating the tallest waterfall in Louisiana history as the flow of a nearby canal reversed direction, pulling salt water from the Gulf of Mexico back into the land. 55 men were trapped in a vertical tomb of dissolving salt, while on the surface, frantic workers scrambled to escape the sinking rigs. This is a story of an incredible miracle, where every single soul fought their way back to the light, but it is also a stark warning about the fragility of our engineering. How does a tiny math error wipe an entire island off the map forever? This is the anatomy of a billion-dollar disaster. It is 7 in the morning on Lake Peigneur. The Texaco drilling rig is a massive steel giant. It is designed to withstand the toughest conditions on Earth. The crew is pushing the drill bit deeper into the sediment. Suddenly, the rhythm of the machinery breaks. The bit is seized by something incredibly solid underground. The crew applies maximum torque to break free, but the platform starts to lean toward the drill. Loud, metallic snaps echo across the calm water. The rig is being pulled down by an invisible force. They have no idea they just poked a hole into a massive, pressurized salt dome. This is stage 1. The drill bit has just pierced a subterranean labyrinth. Now, look at the map below the lake. 1,300 feet down, 55 men are working. They are inside the Diamond Crystal Salt Mine. It is a vast network of white crystalline tunnels. Suddenly, the ceiling begins to groan and crack. A geyser of murky water bursts through the roof. This is not a small, manageable leak. This is a catastrophic structural failure in progress. The mine supervisor shouts the order to evacuate immediately. The men abandon their heavy machinery in the dark. They sprint toward the main service elevator shaft. But the salt pillars are already starting to dissolve. The lake water is turning the mine into slush. If the elevator fails, they are buried alive forever. The lift moves at an agonizingly slow pace, while below them, the tunnels are being annihilated. This is the ultimate race against time. This is stage 2. Back on the surface, the nightmare is expanding. The Texaco rig is no longer leaning. It is literally slipping into the lake. The 45-meter steel tower just vanishes into the mud. A violent, swirling vortex begins to grow. It expands into a hundreds of meters wide liquid monster. The peaceful lake has become a ravenous beast. 11 massive barges are caught in the spin. These are giant vessels made of heavy steel, yet they are tossed around like plastic toys. One by one, they are sucked into the abyss. They disappear into the center of the black hole. The vortex is swallowing everything within its reach. It is a scene of pure, unadulterated chaos. This is stage 3. The pressure differential is absolutely staggering now. The lake bed has become a giant open drain pipe. The Del Cambre Canal connects the lake to the sea. Suddenly, the laws of physics seem to break. The canal stops flowing toward the Gulf of Mexico. It reverses direction and surges back inland. A 50-meter waterfall forms, pouring into the hole. It is the tallest waterfall in Louisiana history. Only it is flowing straight into the earth. The power of the moving water is insane. It is carving through the landscape with terrifying speed. The surge is loud enough to hear miles away. This is stage 4. Finally, the surrounding land starts to dissolve. Jefferson Island is losing its battle with gravity. Sprawling botanical gardens are pulled into the maw. Ancient cypress trees are snapped like toothpicks. Luxury homes on the shoreline are swallowed whole. The ground is literally melting into the water. The landscape is being rewritten in real time. In just a few hours, a world has vanished. The island is being erased by an invisible force. This is the final collapse of an entire ecosystem. This is stage 5. But how did this happen so incredibly fast? How did a 14-inch drill destroy an entire lake? Why did the Earth collapse so violently and completely? We have to look at the secret physics of salt. We have to see the hidden flaw in the plan. This is where the engineering meets the nightmare. But why did the ground melt so fast? How did a tiny drill bit kill a lake? To understand this, we have to look at salt. We are not talking about table salt here. We are talking about a massive subterranean mountain. Beneath Lake Peigneur sits a giant salt dome. This is a massive plug of ancient minerals. It reaches thousands of feet into the earth. For decades, miners carved out gargantuan caverns here. These caverns were as large as cathedrals. To keep the ceiling from collapsing, they used pillars. Massive, solid pillars of salt held up the earth. They were the only thing preventing a catastrophic crush. These pillars were the backbone of the mine. But salt has a secret, deadly weakness. It dissolves almost instantly in fresh water. Fresh water is a hungry predator for salt. As long as the mine was dry, it was safe. But the drill bit changed everything. It created a direct conduit from the lake. Suddenly, billions of gallons of fresh water entered the system. This triggered what experts call the chimney effect. Think of the puncture as a vertical pipe. The water doesn't just sit in the hole. It rushes down with incredible violent force. As it moves, it eats the salt walls. The fresh water dissolves the crystalline lattice immediately. The hole expands from inches to feet. Then it expands from feet to yards. The salt pillars began to liquefy and vanish. Without support, the ceiling of the mine failed. The earth above simply had nowhere to go. It began a massive, irreversible descent into the abyss. This is why the lake bed vanished so quickly. But how did Texaco miss the mine entirely? This was a billion-dollar math error. It is known as a coordinate system mismatch. Oil engineers and miners use very different maps. Texaco was using a specific Mercator projection system, but the Diamond Crystal Mine used a local grid. This led to a discrepancy in their calculations. The drill was off by about 400 feet. In a massive lake, that seems like nothing. But in three-dimensional space, it was everything. The engineers thought they were in a safe zone. In reality, they were directly over the mine roof. They were drilling into a hollow, pressurized tomb. One small calculation error led to a total disaster. They relied on flawed data and paid the price. This is a classic failure of standard operating procedure. Now let's look at the physics of the vortex. Why was the suction so incredibly powerful? It comes down to the pressure differential. At the bottom of the lake, water is heavy. It exerts a massive amount of downward force. Beneath the lake, the mine was a vacuum. It was filled only with air at atmospheric pressure. Once the seal was broken, the balance shifted. The water was pushed into the mine by gravity, but it was also pulled by the vacuum. This created a high-velocity jet of water. This jet carved through the salt like a laser. As the hole grew, the volume of water increased. This created a violent, spinning whirlpool on the surface. This is the same physics as a draining bathtub, but on a scale that can swallow ships. The spinning motion was fueled by the Coriolis effect. It became a self-sustaining engine of destruction. This leads us to the reverse waterfall. This is one of the strangest sights in history. The Delcombre Canal usually flows toward the sea, but the lake was now a giant drain. The water level in the lake dropped rapidly. This created a massive void in the landscape. The sea level in the Gulf was now higher. Gravity forced the ocean water to rush inland. It surged through the canal with terrifying speed. This created a 50-meter wall of falling water. It was a waterfall flowing into a hole. This is the power of a pressure imbalance. The earth was literally inhaling the Gulf of Mexico. The sheer volume of water was absolutely staggering. It was enough to fill the mine in hours. This incident challenges everything we know about safety. It shows how one mistake can cascade. We see how chemistry and physics can combine. They can turn a peaceful lake into a grave. The salt pillars were strong but chemically vulnerable. The map coordinates were precise but fundamentally wrong. The pressure was stable until the seal broke. When these factors aligned, the disaster was inevitable. It was a perfect storm of engineering failures. We have to understand the aha moment here. The lake didn't just fall into a hole. The hole grew because the lake was there. It was a feedback loop of geological proportions. This is the hidden reality of the Peigneur disaster. It is a lesson in the fragility of technology. Even the largest structures have an Achilles heel. For Lake Peigneur, it was a 14-inch bit and a mountain of salt that could melt. This is where science meets a nightmare. We must learn from these invisible errors. Because the Earth never forgets a math mistake. This is the true cost of a coordinate mismatch. It is the price of ignoring the chemistry. We are always one puncture away from chaos. This is the value of technical precision. This is why we analyze the failures, so we never have to witness them again. Everything is connected in the world of engineering. One small hole can change the map forever. Just ask the people of Jefferson Island. They saw their world vanish in an afternoon, all because of a tiny spinning piece of steel and a giant hidden mountain of dissolving salt. This is the final value of the story. It is a warning for the future. Precision is not just a goal. It is the difference between life and death. Now we know the truth behind the vortex. We understand the secret of the reverse waterfall. The mystery of the vanishing lake is solved. But the lesson remains for every engineer today. Be careful where you choose to drill. The Earth is full of hungry, hidden secrets, and fresh water is always looking for salt. This is the science of the Peigneur sinkhole. This is the value of knowing the why. The lake never returned to its original state, as the fresh water that once defined this ecosystem was replaced by the salt of the Gulf forever, leaving behind a permanently altered environment. It remains a deep, haunting scar on the Louisiana landscape, a heavy, multi-billion-dollar price paid for what began as a simple 14-inch puncture. Yet, amid the wreckage and the total loss of the lakebed, there is an incredible human story to be told. 55 men were trapped in a rapidly dissolving subterranean tomb, facing a darkness few can imagine, and yet every single one of them made it back to the surface alive. This miracle wasn't a result of luck or simple chance. It was the direct outcome of strict safety protocols, rigorous training, and an unwavering calm in the face of death. Their survival is a testament to the fact that even when the Earth itself is melting, human discipline and preparation can tip the scales. Engineers in universities across the world still study the Peigneur sinkhole today, reminding us that in the world of high-stakes engineering, even the smallest oversight can cascade into a regional apocalypse. While man-made errors have the power to destroy entire environments in a single afternoon, our ability to prepare and respond remains our greatest shield. We must respect the immense, often invisible power of nature, and never underestimate the importance of technical precision. Lake Peigneur stands as a permanent warning. The Earth is full of hungry, hidden secrets, and a single math error can rewrite the map forever. Our team spends weeks researching these complex failures to bring you this level of analysis, and if you value this original storytelling, subscribe to join us for our next deep dive. Stay curious, stay precise, and we will see you in the next one.